hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Arsenal Fan TV podcast, Laguna Ramble. Joining me tonight are regulars Callum, and back after a long hiatus, we've got Inchi. Jasper, how you doing, guys?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Thank you.
Good. All right, so we might as well dive right into it. We'll start with the 2-0 victory earlier today over Crystal Palace. You guys watched it. Callum, I'm going to start with you. What did you make of it?
Pleasing, really. A win was essential, I think, after dropping points against Southampton and with Liverpool fast approaching. And, you know, the game went exactly how I wanted. I felt it would go. You know, Pulis was never going to come and play any sort of attacking game. He's always going to put 10 men behind the ball and try and frustrate. And, you know,
Pulis, please.
Huh?
Call him by his real name.
Pubis.
Tony Pubis.
Tony Pubis, you know, he likes to play, and, you know, I wasn't surprised at all when in the first half we didn't have many chances, and I think our all-round play wasn't actually that bad, but, you know, it doesn't matter what the quality of the opposition is. When they put that many players behind the ball, you're going to have a bit of trouble, and, you know, he's got them pretty well drilled, to be fair. But, you know, I always felt that we would get a chance or two, and we took them really well. And you know, Chamberlain, I think, you know, the score at the beginning of the second half was huge because, you know, the longer the game goes on, the more nervous everyone feels. So, you know, to get a goal in the 46th, 7th minute, wherever it was, you kind of felt as soon as you got that we were going to be okay. And so yeah, I was just happy that we won, given some of the other results this weekend and the fact that Chelsea and City are playing tomorrow. So, you know, I think if we hadn't won tonight, it would have been a real blow, given the way the window ended and given, you know, the games we got coming up. So yeah, I was pleased. 2-0, nothing wrong with that.
Jasper, it kind of makes a point about, you know, the game coming up tomorrow. Does it transfer the pressure onto Pellegrini and Mourinho's men tomorrow to try and get a result? Like, should we sit back and enjoy them kicking 2 shades of blue out of each other?
Yeah, we should. And it absolutely transfers the pressure. And what we want, you know, is an absolutely exhausting 5-5 scoreline with 3 sendings off and a 10-match ban for biting. You know, that would be great for us. You know, both dropping points and losing players. But I think what we had to do today was get the points. It was essential for tomorrow. It was essential after the disappointing transfer window, and luckily we had this, very low quality team to come up against to do it. But, you know, it was never going to be easy because, Pubis parked the bus, and any team in Europe, you know, is going to struggle against a team that parks the bus. It's very difficult to break teams down, no matter how good you are. And I thought we did it really well. We were patient. And, we're much better at this. This is just another one of those things that we've improved on in the last, couple of years. You know, last season we were leaking goals. Last season we couldn't hold on to a lead, and the season before. And, when we're leaking goals, people didn't come to us and park the bus. They came to us and had a go because they knew they'd get something. But, go back 4 or 5 years, when we were top of the league, for periods of the season, we were scaring people. They did come and park the bus, and we were never that great at breaking down, and there were loads of 0-0s because of that. But now, we don't end up with 0-0s. We do manage to find a way through, and it's down to the better quality of players that we have. More creative flair, basically, and players like Cazorla and Rosicky are really good at breaking down those teams. Wilshire's good as well, but 5 years ago, that would have been 0-0. So it's just, you can only beat what's put in front of you, and if someone parks a bus, you've got to beat that, and we did it really well.
Callum, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, in the words of Michael Caine, blew the bloody doors off. So, were you at any point worried that, it was shades of the Cardiff game or the Fulham game? I mean, because, looking on social media, some people were saying, we were lackluster in those games. We kind of laboured to a victory. But from what I saw, because I was at the game and watching the other 2 games, I thought that these teams are going to come up, they're going to come to Emirates and they're going to set up not to lose because, That it's in their interest. They're not going to outplay us. They're not going to come out and try and outplay us. It's not in their interest. You know, what was your sense of Pubic's? I'm going to call him Tony Pubic's tactics today.
Well,
and our response to them.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, this nonsense about 19th century tactics that's going around at the moment is bullshit for two reasons. Because first of all, you know, football is about attack and defence. Tactics is all about how you set them up. You can set them up to play lovely expansive football. You can play them, you know, with two banks of four to just try and frustrate. And it's also bullshit for the reason that in the 19th century everyone played with about 7 attackers. So it's Mourinho doesn't know what he's talking about. But you know, as I said, you know, I kind of before the game I expected it. A few people felt we'd put 4 or 5 past them, but I never really thought we would, given how well they're playing. And you know, they've really shut up shop since they've changed the manager. So you know, obviously when it gets to half time and it's 0-0, you get a little bit worried, but it would have really only been when it got to about the hour mark or the 70th minute, and if we weren't really creating anything, well, I get a bit worried then. But you know, we did what was necessary, you know, and even when we scored and then they had a couple of chances after, you always felt that we'd be all right because you know this defensive unit is used to you know seeing out games. You know, the reason we finished 4th last season and with that great run was because we just kept beating teams 1 or 2-0, 2-1 with good defensive performances. So, you know, I saw someone earlier to complain that I'm fed up of winning 2-0, and it's like 2-0 victories are superb. You get a couple of goals and you keep a clean sheet. It's brilliant. And
idiot.
I know, but I think you know you look at City and yeah, they're scoring a crazy amount of goals, but you know, realistically, at the end of the day, you get the same amount of points for a 1-0 win and a 7-0 win, you know. And really, it's not like it's not like we're going to games in a 50-50 and we're getting lucky with a late goal or something. We're breaking teams down slowly, and, you know, whilst they might come and decide to sit back and defend, you can't do that for 90 minutes, you know. And you saw even in the second half, you know, the reason we got our goal was because, Chamak, who had dropped back into the midfield to defend, didn't pick up Chamberlain. You know, the defender didn't see him coming and he had this huge gap to run into. One bit of quality from Cazorla, a really composed finish, and it's 1-0. And, you know, thankfully this season, because we haven't been creating a lot of chances compared to like City, for example, we are becoming good at taking the chances that we get. So, you know, there's a lot of good things to take out the game. Oxlade-Chamberlain obviously being the main plus, but, you know, all that mattered really in the grand scheme of things was a fantastic result. The performance was secondary to that, and in my eyes, it was a good, efficient performance that we've come to see and expect this season. And yeah, I really don't see why anyone could complain.
Jasper, I want to come over to you. In seasons gone by, we've depended on Robin van Persie or Thierry Henry to get us the goals, but there's a real sense that the goals are being shared around. Thankfully, you know, we're not really dependent upon one player to get the goals. Today it was you know, Oxlade-Chamberlain. Recently it's been Santi Cazorla that's chipped in with some goals. You know, and you know, it's good because you know, Ramsey's been out for a while now, and he's going to be out for a little while longer. So, you know, are you happy to see so many of the other guys chipping in?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, it just seems like it doesn't matter who we put out on the pitch, someone will score. It's the nature of the way we play our game, you know, and the manager has to take credit for that. But, yeah, I was just thinking that today myself. It's fantastic because, you know, when at the start of the season, if Giroud didn't score, Ramsey scored, you know, and then we went through a period where, you know, Ramsey was out and Jack Wilshere, who hadn't scored for ages, he suddenly won us a game by scoring twice in the same game, and it was a bit like, where did that come from? You know, and the people were saying in the interviews, oh, he suddenly started scoring goals, and he was saying, yeah, it's something I want to add to my game, and then he scored a couple of times after that. Now that he's out, then Cazorla started scoring, and he hadn't scored yet this season either. And you just think, well, who else is left? Because then Ox comes back and he scores twice. It's the most evenly shared, you know, sort of strike rate that you can imagine. And
probably Mertesacker next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just so good for the team. It's so positive because it takes all the pressure off Giroud, and it means that we can win the game almost irrespective of what team we put out. Because if it was all Cazorla, you know, or if it was all Jack Wilshere or or all Ramsey, then one of them gets injured and everyone starts to panic, And you've got to remember as well that Theo Walcott is in the last few seasons been our second top goal scorer, or a top goal scorer, or a third top. He's in the top three, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season. So the rest of the team have to chip in, and they are doing that fantastically well. I mean, who would have expected the Ox to score twice on his first game back? I was expecting him to be rusty as hell.
Two great goals as well. They weren't just tap-ins at the back post or anything. It was two really good finishes.
Yeah, and the difference is as well is that, not just the goals today, but his composure all over the pitch was good, because if there's one criticism of him I had last season was that maybe he rushes things a bit, and he'll give the ball away by mistake, or, he'll see some Hollywood pass, he'll try to make it, but he'll be off balance and it'll go straight out of the pitch, So, he was very calm in front of goal today, and just, a bit more mature. And that's all you want for him, just to have that sort of calm that players like Ramsey and Ozil have, and once he gets that, he'll be fantastic. If he keeps playing like this, we won't miss Jack and we won't miss Ramsey. So, that was very, very positive. And, and Giroud, again, people will probably be on his back, but it's another one of those games where he doesn't do much all game and then he sets up the winning goal. So, that's typical of him. When he's got players all over him and he can't hardly get a touch, it looks like he's going to have another frustrating game, and then he just has a massive contribution.
He's always winning free kicks, though, and making himself a nuisance. It's the dirty work, you're going to get from him every game. And even though, as you say, he might have, like today, he got the assist, which was brilliant, but I don't think he even had a shot on goal.
No.
Through no fault of his own, really. It's just the way it is sometimes. And that's why I like him being up front and not Podolski, for example, because that he's going to just give the defenders a hard time. And, even though he didn't get an awful lot of the ball, he certainly wasn't anonymous through the game. He was always putting himself about. And
exactly.
It's good quality.
Exactly, and his dribbling was good, and he never stops making the runs. Even if he doesn't get the ball, he just keeps making the runs, dragging the defenders out of position, and that's what makes space for other people. But anyway, it wasn't about him today. It was about Ox and Cazorla and even Szczesny. He made an absolutely crucial save. That was absolutely pivotal, because if they'd got a goal there, then you never know what could have happened. We could have gone home with a point. So yeah, fantastic save.
Yeah, you've made some good points about Giroud. I mean, I'm looking at the scoring chance. He's the 6th top scorer in the league. He's got 10, but he's already ahead of Wayne Rooney. Mm-hmm. We've got Robbie van Persie there, Edin Dzeko, who's part of a very strong attack at Man City. Obviously he's never going to catch someone like Luis Suarez or Sergio Aguero, but a 10-goal haul for somebody who's he's not as selfish as probably the other strikers. It's still a good return.
It's also, the good stat I heard earlier was that only he, Suarez and Aguero have scored 10 goals or more and assisted 5 or more.
Well, there you go.
And the thing is, I think people need to realise that we shouldn't, just compare Giroud to Suarez or to Aguero, because he isn't a Man City player, he isn't a Liverpool player, he's an Arsenal player, and he fits our system and he does well for us. So, whereas, for example, with Luis Suarez, he's a great player and all, but that side is built for him. They want to give it to him because he's going to score the goals. With Giroud, he's just part of a team of many talented individuals where there isn't a main man, so to speak. Perhaps you could argue that Özil or Ramsey when he was fit, but we're scoring all these goals from all over the pitch because we're not going through one player. It's very much a fluid thing where the ball, when we have a move, it's going to Cazorla, then to Özil, then, so it's always, Özil isn't Giroud isn't the main man. He's just part of our attacks, and really, I think he contributes, really well. Even if, like, obviously his pass to Oxlade-Chamberlain was great. Chamberlain starts to go and score a goal, but he's made a really good pass. He's held off the defender. But also, in other just little things, his movement will constantly cause defenders trouble, and that can open up space for other people to get a goal. So I think the way we play nowadays, his role is extremely important.
Indeed. I was at the game today, and you hear so many different kind of conversations going on. One conversation that the one sort of conversation I heard today was that was Özil wasted 42 million, because he's not trying hard enough. And
how good was he against Southampton though? You know what I mean, in the last game.
And I kind of tire about going over the same subject, but it seems as though some people the jury's out, because he's not a David Silva. He's not a Edin Dzeko. He's not Edin Dzeko. Eden Hazard. He's not a Messi. He's not one of those players.
He's better than all of them.
Exactly. People don't seem to track, as Rick said a few weeks ago. People don't seem to track intelligence. They track stats. And stats doesn't track intelligence. And people seem to forget how intelligent a player he is, and he's either assisting or second assisting. I'm sure in terms of chances created, he's got to be up there, apart from one matter.
He does frustrate me a little bit, though. I mean, I can see where those fans are coming from. I'm not going to sort of stand on the terraces and go, bloody hell, 42 million, what a waste, he's shit, But I do think there are some games where the game just seems to pass him by, and he's a little bit anonymous. He isn't contributing anything, and I do think that for that astronomical fee, there should be a good few games where he's taking the game by the scruff of the neck and making us win it. And I remember watching the game tonight, and there was some great passing, and it was going from Cazorla to Chamberlain to Rosicky back to Cazorla, and I was thinking, this is great. And then Özil got the ball, and I thought, bloody hell, I haven't actually seen him touch the ball in the last 10 minutes, and I just wondered where he was. I don't know whether he dropped back to cover someone that had, left their position, like the Ox or something, but I just thought, blimey, I actually haven't seen anything of him for the last 10 minutes. And he can do that sometimes. And, I don't expect him to score a hat-trick every game. I don't even expect him to get an assist every game, but I expect him to, for the rep that he came with, and the calibre of club that he came with, and the way that other players talked about him, and the way Ronaldo made such a fuss when he left, I did expect him to have more of an impact. And when he played so incredibly well against Napoli, I expected him to be like that, if not every game, but every other game, because he is a massive star, but I found that this season there's been more games where he hasn't done a lot in comparison to the ones where he has been good. And yes, he was good against Southampton, but it seems to be like 2 games nothing, 1 game good, which, okay, you can say it's his first season, and that's a very good point. But again, I just keep going back to the amount of money. For that money, I expect players to slot straight in and be pretty damn good in almost every game,
I think,
maybe my expectations are too high, I don't know.
Well, I just think that, I understand that when you come with a huge fee, you're expected to influence the majority of games. When your side's suffering, you're looking at your big name players to pull you out of it. But when you talk about grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck, you think of guys flying into tackles and really dominating the midfield and having long shots and testing the goalkeeper and getting the crowd going. But Özil's never been that player. He's always been a guy who will occasionally drift on the edge of a game. But the reason you pay that money for him is because he will be able to make that pass or that through ball. That can be the difference between winning and losing. And I would agree that, in some games he's gone a bit, we've not seen enough of him. But, like you look at the game, like for example at Old Trafford where we lost 1-0, but that was something that the whole team was very poor. It wasn't like everyone was making a big effort and Özil was just letting us down. I felt like it was the whole team was suffering for reasons we've gone over before. But, he is in his first season with Arsenal. I think the number of chances he's created, the number of assists he's got so far is pretty respectable. And all I can think is that the next 2-3 years he'll only get better and better. And obviously you do want your big players to step up in big games, and I'm not going to say he's been brilliant in every match because he hasn't, but I think there needs to be an effort to understand exactly what kind of player he is and realise that. But actually, the Southampton game was the first time I think we've ever seen him really grab a game by the scruff of the neck, because he looked more like full of energy than anyone else, I think, in that match. But But yeah, I'm not too worried. I think he'll prove his worth. We've got a lot of big fixtures coming up, and I'm sure in a few of those he'll make a few decisive passes. I think in all moments he's too good a player not to. And
I wouldn't say that I'm worried about it. I just think it's a slight deflation from the elation of getting him. Everyone was absolutely popping the champagne corks getting a player of his caliber, and he is a massive star that comes with a huge rep. Yeah, but we're not really seeing it on the pitch. We're not really seeing him dominate games or turn games. And there's he's known as the king of the assists, but sometimes you see him give the ball away in the final third, in a really pathetic way. Like, he passes it too slowly.
All players will do that, It's when you look back, like for example.
But they don't all cost $42.5 million.
Well, for me, growing up, Zinedine Zidane was he's probably my all-time favourite player. And when you look back at his career, you've kind of have these. You tend to forget the games where he didn't play brilliantly. You remember the Champions League finals and the great performances. But even who cost more, and also in inflationary terms was a hell of a lot more than Özil was. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and he had games where he didn't play well, where he would, that happens to all players. Ronaldo and Messi are freaks, so it's difficult to say that about them, but it happens to all the very best, especially playmakers, because sometimes if it's not on their game, it's difficult, because the thing is, with them, for a defender, it's the basics. You kind of got to clear the ball, defend well. You can with a playmaker to be the best, you've got to make an incredibly difficult decision as to where to run or where to pass. It's not easy, and obviously Özil can do it more than most in my eyes. I think he's an absolute genius. But you just have to accept that, like all great players, there are going to be games where they are going to drift, and perhaps you're completely fair in saying we should have expected more at this point. But I think we've seen a very encouraging amount, and we're only ever going to see more when he gets more used to the Premier League, to the team. Perhaps if we had a couple more quality players around him. Can
I just say, I'm just looking at the top Premier League assists. He's second.
Yeah.
Wayne Rooney's top with 9. He's second with 8 assists. He's above people like David Silva, Luis Suarez. I
think how many goals City scored as well.
Yeah, exactly. Eden Hazard, who I keep on mentioning. Sergio Aguero. He's ahead of a lot of players who've been here a lot longer, who are acclimatised to this league over a period of time. Just imagine when he actually does become half decent, Jasper. What kind of numbers? Yeah.
No, the stats back him up. Fair enough, they do back him up. But
and also,
I guess I'm just kind of watching him. Every sort of move that he makes, and I expected more because of the hype, and I do take into account his first season, but I expect him to massively raise it next season. I'm not going to wait 2 or 3 years like you said.
No, I don't think you should. I don't think we will.
I expect a major step up.
I think he will consistently raise it. I think when you look back at any 6-month period, you look back and think, oh, he's better than he was 6 months ago. I think that's just the way, when players. I mean, obviously, like last year, Cazorla, was like a house on fire from the beginning. But he was really the man we relied on more than anyone, whereas now we've got 3 or 4 or 5 players that we can rely on to be our creative spark rather than just one man. I don't know, I just think there needs to be some middle ground. He is open to criticism. I refute people who say, some people have this mindset that he cannot be criticised, which I think is nonsense. He's like any other player. But at the same time, he is not a waste of money. He is, just the fact he's at the club is ignore his performances for the time being, which I still think have been pretty good. Just the money we paid for him, what has done for the club, I think cannot really be. We'll look back in the same way we look back at the Bergkamp transfer. We'll look back at the Özil one, perhaps even more, because if we go on to sign some more players of this caliber, if we go on to win titles, it'll always be this is what started it all.
Yeah, I just want to say, he's coming from a league where they only play he's coming from a team in a league where they play 2.5 games a year. That's 2 games against Barcelona. Okay, Corona Cup, Champions League.
It's also
games.
a lot slower.
It's a lot slower. It's a lot more open. The culture shock is vast. Coming from there to here, it's vast. I mean, it's not even like someone like Cazorla, who's come from Villarreal, where there's more teams of that caliber, plus the Madrids and Barcelonas that he's got to compete with. I think we should give him a bit of time. I said last week or week before that if you hark back to Robert Pires' first season, he wasn't no great shakes until the semi-final game against Tottenham, and then boom, he never looked back. So
many great players are like that, aren't they?
I do, and the thing is, I think we were spoiled a bit by his start to his Arsenal career. He came in, like he'd been there for years. If you look at the game against Sunderland, he was sublime. He was fantastic. He was imperious. The Napoli games. We really were spoiled by his introduction. You compare it to other Arsenal players that came in for the around that for the first 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games. It was unheard of. So I think he's got 9 assists or 8 assists, or his second top assister. There's only better to come, and I don't think we're going to wait 2 or 3 years. If we end up winning the championship, I don't mind him playing in second gear or third gear.
Sometimes the pre-season makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does as well.
Next season, you have a full pre-season with us, assuming he's not injured, and that often makes a big difference to players. You saw what it did for Walcott and various others. Yeah, Ramsey as well.
He's brilliant in the summer.
Mm.
Yeah, just moving on from that, another thing that made me laugh today, I was standing around watching the Arsenal Fan TV videos, and I was chatting to Bully, and he said that Mikel Arteta had a good game today, and I thought that's and he said to me that that wasn't the case a few games ago, and it took me back to again people saying that he's lost his pace. He was never one for his pace was never his game. Anyway, in the first place, and people saying that he's dropped off, he's a few yards off the pace, we need to replace him ASAP in the January window. I thought people just, I don't know, like
people have short memories.
They have short memories. His game is not based on pace. He's a thinker. He's always in the right position at the right time. The only thing he does is he probably slows the game down a bit, because he likes to take touches on the ball and so on.
So do all of our players, though. We don't really have that, because Ola and Ertz will always look to cut inside, and they're not going to be rushed into making a pass and lose the ball. The preference will always be to take a moment to look at where the best place to get, the best person to get the ball is.
I just think he's the most intelligent player we've got in that position.
He's the most solid. I think he brings more than Flamini. Flamini, obviously he's perhaps dropped off a little bit from his early season form, but Arteta has more about him. I think he can, as far as going forward, and he's less likely to fly into a 2-footed challenge and get himself sent off and banned for 3 games.
That was harsh, though. Let's face it.
Yeah. I don't know.
You don't think so?
It was 2-footed in this day and age. If it was the other way around, we'd be.
You can have a debate about whether or not those tackles should be red cards or not, but the fact is they are red cards, and it was pretty much as 2-footed tackle as he can get.
But it wasn't off the ground, was he? He got the ball cleanly and barely.
Well, nowadays it doesn't matter if you get the ball or not. If you're going 2-footed, it's a red, and as long as you can debate about whether or not that's the correct rule, but when that is the rule, that is always going to be a red card. And
and Wenger didn't really challenge it neither, did he? He
said something on the lines of if all 2-footed tackles are red cards, and I guess it is.
And that's where I agree with him, because if you think about a high boot, right? If the ball's coming in high and a player goes for it, right, and they get the ball, even though the foot is almost chin music, but nobody gets hurt, then the referee plays on. But if someone makes a high tackle and they do end up hitting someone in the shoulder or in the face, then obviously it's a yellow card or whatever it is. And I think that's where, it's at the referee's discretion, and he can say, yeah, it was 2-footed, but it was on the ground. He did get the ball and he hasn't hurt the player. So let's call it a yellow and play on. I think that,
well, I think
the result is what actually happens as a result of the tackle is relevant in the case of, a reckless tackle, because that's what the red card is for, isn't it? Recklessness. But it can't be seen as that reckless if he got the ball cleanly, obviously, and didn't hurt the player.
Well, I think the debate you're having here is not whether or not the law was correctly enforced when it came to Flamini, because it was. I think you're debating about whether or not all 2-footed tackles should be red cards, and I don't know. I feel like so much of what the FA do is reactionary. It will take a serious injury for certain things to happen. I kind of like the idea. I quite like the fact that this is the law beforehand, because 2-footed tackles are dangerous. They're also really fucking stupid, because I don't see why. When you make a tackle, it's not natural to go in 2-footed. You really have to throw the other leg forward. Flowering doesn't need to make that tackle, you know. It's just silly. He knows what's going to happen. You know, it's not like he went into that tackle and think, oh, you know when you go in with 2 feet with that kind of force, it's going to be a red all day. And it's a shame because, well, it's a shame in the fact that so many refereeing decisions don't go our way. And then when, occasionally you'd like to get away with one and go, oh, we got lucky there. It doesn't seem to happen at all, but I don't think it's really defendable. But going back to Arteta, I think people, you forget. You remember the Dortmund game when we won 1-0 at their place? Arteta was, he could have
really towed the line. He was, like I said after that game, remember I said his performance reminded me of Mark van Bommel.
Yeah.
Where he just kind of really toes that line between.
A bit like Yevnak today, when you're like, how the hell is he not booked? I mean, with Arteta on that day, you're like, how is he not sent off? But he did a really good job of breaking up play. And I think it worked well with Oxlade-Chamberlain tonight because Arteta was positionally very disciplined, which after having had Alex Song for 2 years or whatever as our defensive midfielder, having someone in there who knows it just doesn't just go off on a merry jaunter up to the, up front, and then when we get countered against, he's not there. It's great to have someone who knows where he's meant to be and understands that responsibility. And
that's why I say he's probably the most intelligent player we've got.
I think so, yeah.
Especially
and also
that position.
If you put him next to Ramsey or Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think it works okay because they're both big runners. Ramsey and Oxlade-Chamberlain will get up and down the field today, and even though obviously Oxlade-Chamberlain was given more freedom to roam forward, you still saw him coming back into the midfield and winning tackles. So obviously he's been told, you can't just disappear up the pitch and leave Arteta on his own. You got to come back, which he did a good job of. And when you come into that midfield position, even if you've got all the technical abilities to play it, you need to learn the kind of the things that can really be picked up by playing there, which is kind of just understanding when you can go forward, when you can come back, and the discipline you learn, which Arteta has in abundance. That's what we need. Ramsey's got it because he's played there for a long time, and if Oxlade-Chamberlain's future is in the middle, he'll have to pick it up as well. But I felt like today was a great start for him anyway.
Good. I just want to touch quickly upon the atmosphere. The Palace fans were singing, chanting throughout the game. All kinds of chants from you're not winning anything this season or something like that to we're here at the end, and all kinds of chants. And they were orchestrated by one fella who I don't think he actually watched the game. He was busy orchestrating the crowd. There's a guy with a top off who was the second orchestrator. Then you had a guy on the drums whose arms must have nearly been falling off by the end of the game because he was constantly banging throughout the game. And I have to say, they are one of the more raucous fans I have seen at the ground. They don't. It's like they come here for a laugh. They just came. They just enjoy the atmosphere. They enjoy watching their team play in these big grounds. Exactly. And it's funny enough. Those guys that were above me again, they were saying, get a Palace, they're not like that at Palace. And I thought, I was there earlier in the season, and they were exactly like that because they've got that designated section in their home ground where they're allowed to have an orchestra, a singing section, and drums and whatnot. Palace, the club, work very closely with their fans to generate an atmosphere, and it's a shame that we're not allowed to ourselves.
It's definitely easier with smaller clubs. I think.
Yes, but still,
I'm not saying I'm not defending Arsenal at all, but I think it's a problem with a lot of big clubs.
Well, you say that Newcastle with 50-odd thousand capacity, they've got a dedicated section as well. Man United. Yeah, and then Man United again. They worked with their fan group to pilot an orchestrated singing section. So I don't think it's just limited to the smaller clubs. The bigger clubs are also piloting and testing it. It's a shame that we don't.
I reckon it'd be good fun.
I don't know if you guys got a sense of it on the TV today or not.
You could certainly see that they were. You could see that they were pretty raucous, and you could hear them out singing our fans. Yeah, at certain points, definitely.
Yeah. It's just, I just wanted to commend them. It's a shame that we don't. The stewards don't allow us to. Partake in the banter or create our own atmosphere. But
away fans are often. Our away fans. Yes, every game we play away from home. I always say on Twitter, great away support, because you can always hear our away support no matter where we are. out-singing the home fans because they're brilliant. And it's often the case, unfortunately, when it was at the Emirates, the away fans are a bit more loud than the home fans. Yeah. But that's just modern football for you, I think. Oh, we could do more to improve the atmosphere, certainly.
Sure. Okay, so let's close that chapter and let's move on to the transfer window. It was an underwhelming transfer window for many Arsenal fans. Only Kim Kardashian, or was it Kim Basinger, or whoever you want to call her, Kim Marsh, Kim Kardashian coming in, and there's a sense that we could have done more in terms of bringing in much needed help with Olivier Giroud. I want to know what's your take on the January activity. Let's start with you, Jasper.
Well, if you look at it in black and white terms, it's another transfer window consecutively where we failed to get a striker. We needed a striker in the summer. We made several attempts. We failed. This was really our opportunity to put it right. We didn't put it right. So in that sense, it's another failure. And I do find myself sometimes questioning how that actually happens with a club of our resource and our, heritage and the staff that we have that are meant to be, highly skilled, the Gazidis and all the negotiators, how we can, fail to get our man so many times in a row. There has to be something wrong there, because even though we got fantastic players on the pitch and we got, one of the Europe's top managers, it doesn't count for shit if you can't go out and just get your man. And every time you watch somebody else go out and get what appears to be their first choice player in that position, whether it's a right back or a striker, you just think, well, they went out and slapped their money down and got what they wanted. Why can't we, How can we fail so many times in a row? And I'd love to know what's at the bottom of that, to be honest. But having said all that, I almost contradict myself by saying that really I still would rather have that fourth centre back than another striker, because I still think it's more important, because there are goals coming from everywhere, as we've just discussed. Every possible midfielder has scored this season, and we've still got Giroud and Bentner. So it's the attacking options actually aren't that bad. But if Koscielny got injured, then we'd be back to Vermaelen and Mertesacker, who aren't as good as a partnership. And then if Mertesacker got injured as well, it'd be Vermaelen and Sagna with Jenkinson at right back. And that is when this whole business of 10 clean sheets in a row would go out the window, as far as I'm concerned. The whole season could be absolutely stuffed just by one or two centre-backs getting injured. So actually, for me, that is more important than the striker, even though everyone loves the striker.
Cool. Callum?
Yeah, on the centre-back point, I agree with you. I think we need some sort of fourth-choice centre-back, but at the same time, it's very difficult to find a defender who's willing to be fourth choice and is also good enough that if you bring him into a title-challenging side, you feel okay about it.
True.
Although in the summer, I think Vermaelen will probably be off, so we might have to go buy a couple. But I'd like to see us just bring in someone with a little bit of experience, and maybe a younger player who won't perhaps be too upset about not playing. But,
it's difficult, mate. But everybody else manages it, don't they?
Well, Chelsea only have 3. They have Cahill.
Well, they went out. They went out and spent 18 million on some kid and then sent him straight back.
Well, they have about 30 players on loan, so that's what a club can do if you've got oil money and nothing else to worry about. With the window though, you said it was underwhelming, Giles. I don't think that really does it justice. It's especially with this flirtation with Draxler for the whole window. We didn't need Draxler, but a £37 million player would have been pretty nice to give you that little lift. Just to get you a bit more excited.
As they were saying, there's been contradicting reports saying from I think apparently Draxler came on German Sky and said the deal was done. Managers come in and said no, I don't want to sell him. That's
whatever
it.
happened, we didn't get him, and that's unfortunately that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Is there a sense? People were saying that we should have done more. We should have slapped down another 4 or 5 people. Managers not.
I sympathise with Wenger not wanting to spend 37 million on a 21-year-old. Because, we got Özil for 5 million more and Wenger saw him as the finished product or a player that was already world class. From what I've seen and read about Draxler, he can become that good. Yeah, but it's a big risk to take, and we've spent years saving money up so we can be in this position. We don't want to go spending all this money on someone that doesn't work out. It may not be a problem for Man City or Chelsea. They can just write off £40 million mistakes. We can't.
Right. So do you expect us to go out and get him in the summer?
I think he probably will end up. Well, I don't know.
I mean, you're talking about 6 months difference here, so the same money, just 6 months different. I mean, should we use that money elsewhere instead of actually going and get Draxler in the summer? Well,
first of all, people were saying that this fee of 37 million was going round. That's his release clause, and by all accounts, that doesn't come into to play until the summer. Now, if that's the case, why would they sell him for anything less than that? Because they can wait 6 months and get that money for him. And also, there's a good chance they might have even been asking, for 40 million or more. It's hard to see. I mean, Wenger clearly likes him. It's obvious that he wants Draxler. Whether or not we'll get him, I don't know. At one point, I really did think we were going to land him in this month, or at least in the summer. But apparently Bayern are interested, and we did back out this deal for a reason. You don't really know exactly why that is, and if he's going to cost that kind of money, maybe Wenger won't want to go in for him, and was only interested on the basis that we could get him for a bit cheaper. I'd like him as long as he came in with a quality striker. I don't want him to come in and be. I mean, he may well go on to become a striker. People have spoke about this, but we don't know for sure, do we?
Right.
So going back to this window, though, the Kullstrom signing, even if he's injured for a month, doesn't really upset me. It's better to have him than no one. But regardless of whether he came in or not, the fact that we didn't get a striker, I find. I'm pretty pro Wenger, but this really baffles me.
Was it that easy to go and get a striker? I mean, how many clubs actually went and got top line strikers?
I'm not even talking about top line strikers. Though. There were clubs that went out and got strikers, and I understand, for example, like Fulham went and got Mitroglou from Olympiacos, and Wenger's not someone to buy him for 12 million, play him for 6 months, and if he doesn't work out, sell him. He wants to buy someone that'll be here for the long term. We spoke a while earlier in the month. I wanted to get Berbatov, and he ended up going on loan to Monaco. I mean, it showed that even Monaco aren't spending big on strikers, but there would have been someone we could have brought in who would have been an upgrade on Bentner. And we're now going into the last few months of the season with because Giroud in the first half of the season started well, drifted towards the end, didn't score for a month or so, and then picked up a slight injury. If he gets injured towards the end of the season, we're really going to be kicking ourselves. And, I just feel like there was plenty of players that could have come in and done a job, would have been an alternative to, I'm hearing this argument all the time since Friday. I mean, who are these plenty of players? If we got Mitroglou, we definitely wouldn't have got a star striker in the summer, because that's 15 million there. This is what I said a while ago, is the famous spunk it on Michu quote that Mo seemed to like so much. I didn't want us to spend £20 million on a player that meant we could not go and buy a genuinely top-class player in the summer, But we could have got Berbatov on loan. We could have paid $2 million for Berbatov and then got him in an 18-month contract and still gone in for a big-name striker in the summer. We could have got Lassina Traore on loan, who's on loan from Monaco to Everton. And the thing is, all we're asking for was someone better than Bentner, I refuse to believe that there wasn't better options out there.
Well, there's also people like, just to add to that, Callum, there's people like Benteke, and Loic Remy,
I couldn't get Loic Remy, because I don't think the terms of the deal.
No one really knows. They're speculating about that. It's difficult to say.
The point is, you can talk about small print and loan deals as much as you like, but if you slap 20, 25 million down on the table, all of that goes away very quickly. Money talks, and yes, we would have had to pay over the odds to get Remy or Benteke, and it would have seemed like we'd been ripped off, or that we were desperate. But it's the January window; everybody's desperate. That's why they paid so much for Mata, But at the end of the day, if we'd won the league, no one would remember the extra 10 mil that we wasted on Michu or Benteke or Remy. They'd just be so ecstatic that we won the league, we wouldn't care. And if we had to then sell Benteke, Remy or whoever, and make a loss of 5 or 10 million, again, no one's going to care because we won the league. And the disappointing thing about the window is that here we are top of the league. Here we are in a situation this season where Chelsea and City are our biggest rivals, but City's got a new manager. Mourinho's not what he was, and they're dropping points. So this is our best opportunity for a decade to win the fucking league, and all we need to do is make sure that we've got cover in every position, and we didn't do it. We didn't do it in the summer, and now we failed to do it in January. So we might look back on this as an opportunity missed. If Giroud gets injured and whoever replaces him, be it Bentner, Podolski, whatever, doesn't score as much, or the midfielders stop scoring or whatever, then we might look back on this window as being an almighty cock-up. And yes, we know, Wenger doesn't make these panic buys or these knee-jerk moves, but if ever there was a time to do it, it's now, because this is a golden opportunity.
What baffled me was, if Wenger says, I'm happy with my squad, I don't feel we need a striker, I would disagree with him, but it would make sense. You're like, well, we're not going to buy a striker because Wenger feels that we don't need one.
But if we don't need one, why did he try and get Bar in the summer?
This is what I don't. Well, and also apparently on the last day we were making inquiries for Kalou, Vucinic, and you're like, and all these, this is happening, and you're like, I don't understand. If we wanted to, if we're bidding for strikers, be it on loan or a permanent transfer, what does that say? That says that Wenger feels that we need another striker. If he feels that we need another striker, then why the fuck are we calling up every other club in Europe with asking for loan deals on the final day of the window? Why would you do that? Why would you not just go and be decisive and bring someone in?
Exactly, and I would add to that, Callum, by saying that if these rumours of us phoning around these clubs with a few hours of the window left to go are true, what's even more embarrassing about it is that when the summer window closed, everybody knew that we'd failed to get strikers. We failed to get Suarez, we failed to get Higuain, we failed to get Jovetic or whoever else we were going for, right? At that point where the summer window closed, we had all this time while the season was going to make sure that basically a deal was agreed and done in principle, so that the second that the January window opened, we processed the paperwork and in gets our striker and he can play for the first game of 2014.
It didn't even have to be that quickly though. It just had to be a list of players we like to look at. Wenger could have said in September, right, we'll look at Benteke in January. If he's available, if he's in good form, if he's not injured, we can have a bid. It wouldn't have been that difficult to make that list and then to...
Yes,
and
they've got all this time
to talk to them. That's what annoys me.
But what you also got to understand is it's okay like saying we'll make a list for this player, that player, this player. But a lot of these transfers depend on whether the selling club has got somebody else lined up. Now, Paul Lambert is in the middle of a relegation battle. I mean, you're right, slap down 30 million. Who's he going to go?
I understand that it's more.
He doesn't have. The thing is, I think it's quite a key element in these transfer negotiations. There's one thing, you can slap down as much money as you want, but if that selling club doesn't, especially a selling club in a situation as precarious as a relegation battle, if they don't have somebody else lined up, why are they going to sell? It's one thing saying we've got 30 million in the bank, but we might go down.
Well, you're absolutely right,
mate. In the first week of the window, then they've got a whole window to go and buy.
How do you know that they haven't done that? And that's why we've gone out. We've looked elsewhere.
Well, because if we have done that and we haven't got anyone, then it's a failure.
It's a failure. That's exactly my point. And Giles, you're right to make that point that they'd have to have some kind of replacement. But that's why I'm saying they've got all of the season from the moment the summer transfer window closes to start doing this. If he started then and phoned up various clubs and said to Newcastle and said to Villa, look, we are going to make a bid for Remy, or we're going to make a bid for Benteke in the January window. We're telling you now. Okay, and we're going to make a bid that you're probably not going to refuse. Okay, so you've got all of this time to find a replacement for them, because we are going to do that, right? You can even start talking money then if you want.
But you can't dictate to these clubs. We're going to make a bid, so you better go and find somebody. Well, they've still got to say yes or no. If they say no at the first of September.
But my point is, if you make a bid that's so high that a club of that size wouldn't be able to refuse it, then they do know that they're going to have to start looking. And the other thing is Wenger, with his encyclopedic knowledge of players, why doesn't he just say, hey, look, there's a player that you could afford, and he even suggest a replacement. Why not? He's supposed to know of every player on the planet. Why doesn't he do that and say, look, what we're giving you could buy two for that price? You know, but I admit it's not as easy as it sounds, but it's all this time that's gone by, and the whole of all that time between the windows and the whole of the January window, and then on the last day we're phoning around clubs. Well, exactly, I come back to your point, Charles. If he gets through to somebody with 5 hours of the window left and asks for a loan, who's going to say yes? Because they can't get a replacement with 5 hours to go. They can get a replacement on the 1st of January if you start talking to them.
Yeah, well...
Other clubs did business. We could have done business if we really wanted.
I just don't think there was a lot of clubs doing business for forwards. I think there was a lot of clubs doing business
we
for
could have got
Berbatovs.
Berbatovs.
Yes, but then you look at Monaco, the Principality. That's a tax-free haven.
Oh, yeah, but...
They're paying 180 grand a week or whatever, or I don't know how much
we go into Berbatov at the beginning of the window and say, look, 18-month contract, we'll match your wage, come in and try and win a league title before you retire, or you go off to, earn your last big payday. We could have got him. And
I think he'd have rather come to us than Monaco, wouldn't he?
You reckon? Why?
Because of the prestige. Because as Callum just said, he could win a last title or an FA Cup pot before he finishes his career. What's he going to win at Monaco? Even if he wins,
you never know. I mean,
even if he wins the league, it's still only the French league.
We're getting a bit off topic here. There would have been, there would have been players. I know. I'm not saying that we could have bought Costa or Martinez and Porto, but if we really wanted to, if we had a proper plan and the desire to spend, we could have gone and bought a striker who's better than Bentner. It wouldn't have, and we could have done it in a hell of a lot better fashion than we had tried to get someone on the last day, which was, you think you do it in the summer window, you're like, right, we'll learn from that mistake, and we apparently didn't. Why wait to the last day? I understand that a lot of clubs do, but why wait?
It's disappointing.
Chelsea got Matic and Salah and all these players sewn up long before the deadline.
Yeah,
and it just really brought everything down. It suddenly felt back. It took us back to that place where we were against Villa, and obviously that's a bit hyperbolic, but the feeling after that window was of such disappointment. The whole of the first half of the season, all I could think was, when we get to January, we'll get someone else to give us a bit of a lift. You get into January, nothing happens at first, and then you kind of keep expecting something to happen. All these rumours happen. Deadline day, we get some cropped 31-year-old Swedish guy, better than no one, but we hadn't got a striker. And
some ways is not better than no one, though, because honestly, the bodies, we need bodies, so technically on the pitch it's better than no one, but as far as the fans are concerned, it's more insulting. If we'd got no one at all, then we could have said, okay, maybe no one was available, or maybe Wenger believes in the squad. Both of those theories are sort of respectable reasons not to buy. But then you bring in someone who you then discover is injured, and he's supposed to be covering injuries, and he can't play till March. That is actually more embarrassing than buying no one. It really is.
To be fair with that was cleared up today by Wenger himself. People assume that we're just getting him in to replace Ramsey, but I think what happened was that we knew he was injured. But we had to get him in this month, obviously, because the window was shutting, and we said to Spartak, we'll split the cost of his rehab, and then in a few weeks he'll be available. So I don't think Wenger brought him in just for the next few weeks till Ramsey's back. I think I
understand what happened. He turned up for the medical and said, look, I've got to be honest, I fell over the other day. And so it's a bit of a weird one. We didn't deliberately get a crocked player, but also, who is this guy anyway? Even if he wasn't injured, is he good enough? Is he at the same level as the players he's replacing? If he's replacing Flamini, then maybe. But if he's replacing Aaron Ramsey, I'm not so sure.
From my understanding, the worst case scenario is that he's shit and we don't have to play him. The best case scenario is Ash turns out to be quite handy and gives us a bit of depth that we might need.
And I think Ramsey probably might be back by the time this guy's fit anyway.
Probably.
We've got Wilshire's coming back soon.
Wenger said best case scenario is late Feb for
they're both out for 6 weeks. They'll probably come back together.
Yeah, and Flamini's been reduced from 4 to 3 games. Is that right?
It was never 4 to begin with. I think people.
Right. Okay, so he's only got 2 more games to sit out.
We're fine.
So I think we're fine. And the thing is, okay, you say that it's probably better that we didn't get anybody, but I tell you what, to have an extra body in there come March when the real big run comes about, I think might be beneficial.
On purely practical terms, it's better to have this guy than no one. But it was just the fact that we wanted this star striker and we only ended up with this guy out of nowhere that really could not have been more underwhelming. That what made it was.
The only thing that perplexes me about the whole striker situation is this. I mean, we don't know what's happening in the background, but it seems to me, what changed in Wenger's mind that he only wanted to go out and he started now late in the day making inquiries for Closer and Kalu. And,
I would have loved Closer.
You know, I would have loved it. People were saying that, I said that I would prefer him over Berbatov.
Just him and Özil would have worked.
And I think the situation was primed. I mean, Lazio are in trouble. They've just sold Hernanes to.
They'd also just bought another striker. I can't remember his name.
So and they're in financial trouble. The situation was, from in my opinion, the sort of situation that Wenger likes to take advantage of.
He would have been a shrewd signing. You know, you say players weren't valuable. We could have got him if we paid a few million for him. And
I think, that's the only player that I think, we missed that. I would have paid.
I think a lot of people would have been saying, you know what, that's a shrewd signing, because it's.
But the thing is, I think some people would. I think some people would think, because I've reading that people before the end of the deadline, people say he's 35, he's past it, he's this and that. People don't watch him.
This guy just scores, like, it doesn't matter how old he is.
And they're kind of experienced.
He's like Francis Jeffers if Jeffers wasn't shit. And if he was German, because he seems to pop up and score.
He's just a master marksman.
Exactly.
His record speaks for itself. He's a master
Probably
marksman.
go to the World Cup next year.
Yeah, and that's it. And he wants to get to the World Cup, so he's not going to come and do a Davor Shuka and pick up his pension like he did when he came.
You'd want someone who knows where the goal is, whereas with Bentley,
and he's hungry, and he's prepared to sit. You know, he'll be prepared to sit on the bench, and take his chance when it comes.
So there are players out there, Charles.
That's what I'm saying. The only player that I'd question about that is Closer, because I've been saying Closer for quite a little while in this January window, and I thought that like I said, the situation was primed.
Can you imagine if we'd got Henri back?
Mo would have. But then. Yeah, Mo would have squirted all over the place, wouldn't he?
Well, if you're talking about just getting bodies, do you know what I mean? Would you rather have a Swedish guy that's cropped to make up the numbers, or would you rather have a legend back who's still got some ability? You know, last time he came, he scored a couple of goals.
But remember, he'd only be here till the end of February.
Yeah.
He's got to go back to the MLS. So it's not to the end of the season, is it?
No, it's true. It's true. But he's a striker, and that's what we need. We need a striker more than midfielders. And the players need a lift. I mean, Callum, you were saying about Draxler. I mean, we don't need Draxler at all. We've got enough attacking midfielders to sink a ship. But it's the fact that another marquee signing would then have lifted the players for that second half of the season. Lifted in the first half by Özil, lifted in the second half by Draxler or another, and that's sometimes all you need to carry you over the line. But the way that we've ended this window is almost it's such a flop.
Well, I've got to say though, today's performance, and especially Oxlade-Chamberlain, who, dare I say it, is like a new signing. For him to come and score 2 goals, his first 2 of the season, it did feel a bit fresh, didn't it? And
it was very encouraging.
I think it takes especially if we manage to go into next weekend still talking to say, well, I think it deflects a little bit of the attention away from the January transfer.
We had a great weekend with United losing.
We did, Man United losing,
drawing, with Liverpool drawing.
Liverpool drawing as well,
which was hilarious, by the way. If you saw the goal that West Brom scored,
his face after the goal was a picture, wasn't it?
It was just
sorry for because he's an old gunner.
My favourite moment of this season was when we played them at the Emirates, and he got the ball, and about 3 Arsenal players just came right at him, and he just turned and completely toe poked it back towards his own goal, and they went out for a throw in, and he looked so confused, bless it.
Anyway, okay, so let's move on. Should we don't need to cover Kim Karlström, do we? We've more or less covered him.
We have. It was disappointing.
He's got one little thing about him was, when Sweden drew 4-4 with Germany, he got 3 assists that day.
Oh, right, okay. So that wasn't long ago.
No, it wasn't.
No, last year, wasn't it? 2013.
He's quite popular if you played FM 2007, the Foot Manager games. He's one of those players that always cropped up. But
more disappointing than Yaya Sonogo, though.
He was one of those players that came at the end of the dominant Lyon era, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He won 2 championships with Lyon.
He's clearly a handy player. I mean, he's got 100 caps for Sweden. Look, he's not going to come and he's not going to inspire us to a title, but he might just plug a few gaps that stops the ship from sinking when things don't go too well. But
he's a plug.
He's a plug. He's a
butt plug. to plug up the gaps in the back door.
Right. You and your euphemisms. Glad to have you back, Inchi.
Oh, so subtle.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Any other topics that we should touch upon? I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? Really, we've.
You were going to ask us if we would have RVP back because there's this ridiculous rumour that he's come.
Oh, there you are.
Daily Mail.
Yes, the special, the transfer special, the early summer transfer special. You've heard it, you've read it.
You've binned it.
Binned it.
Can you imagine if we really think about it? Can you imagine if it happened?
I can't picture it. I can't imagine.
Neither can I. Neither can I.
It's tenuous. That's being generous, but I'll tell you what. I mean, I put the question out there today onto us. Yes or no? Would you have it? But people say fucking this, that, the other, traitor, slag, blah, 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 whatever. Da, 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 da. I tell you what. You might not wholeheartedly forgive him, but if he was to come back and he got the 5 goals to get us the championship, I mean, if we're going to forgive someone like Bentner.
No, but what Bentner did wasn't as bad. Well,
it wasn't as bad.
Bentner slagged the club off.
No, he did. But what?
He didn't go to our rivals.
No one gave a shit about Bentner. If Bentner goes and says, "I don't want to play for Arsenal anymore," no tears are shed. But for Van Persie to do it, it doesn't.
But the thing is, we were in love with Van Persie, weren't we? Because we stuck by him for years after all the injuries. He was our Dutch master. He was the Bergkamp Mark II. We just loved watching his exquisite goals over the years, and we were absolutely in love with him. And at the point when he left, he was on the best form he'd been on ever in his life. So he took that incredible form straight to our rivals. You can't say the same about Bentner because even at his best point, if he left the club at the peak of his abilities, I don't think anybody would have, shed a tear, as you said. Yeah, exactly.
Quite recently when he was...
Even if Bentner went to bloody Spurs or Chelsea, we'd probably just go, all right. Because we were never in love with him. In fact, if anything, he was quite hated, not by me, but by a big chunk of fans. They couldn't stand him. So it's not even
I see your point. I mean, as you lot well know, when Van Persie made that, issued that statement when he was about to leave on Gunners Road, he's dead to me.
Move that was.
As far as I was concerned, wash out. People say no, we shouldn't let him go and blah blah blah. Why did we let him go? Blah blah. It's his Wenger's fault. I was like, look, he's dead. Forget him. Get him out of my club as soon as possible. But in the cold, hard light of day, I mean, we need goals. I mean, we've got a defence, if we can get a defender in. And if summer comes around, and there's more smoke and fire to this.
No, I would feel so dirty. I would just remember that first press conference. The little boy inside of me was screaming for Manchester United. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, shut the fuck up.
This is what I was wondering. If he comes back, what does the little boy do now? The little boy inside me cried and wanted to go home.
The little boy's a dick.
Yeah.
All I'd say, look, if we're willing to pay any sort of money for a player and pay him a huge wage, buy anyone else. Just buy. I literally don't care who. Just, it's horrible. All I wish is that he never left. I wish he'd committed. And, if we said to him, look, in 12 months we'll get Herzl. Stay. We'll give you a big contract. It'll all be fine. Then that would have been brilliant. But as soon as he made that statement, as soon as he said he's off to Man U, that's it. That's it for me. We're not some fucking second-rate club who have to look back at like a jilted lover and be like, oh, please come back. We've moved on. We've moved on.
I take your point because he did say that. I mean, before they said he'd never go to another club in England, and we all thought when Juve came, we all thought.
Well, all the Nasris and the cliches came out and said, "Oh, I love Arsenal and I would never play for City and their money," or I'm always going to be a gooner. Van Persie said, "It's just shut the fuck up." When he celebrated his goal earlier in the season, you're a real fucking gooner, mate. I just think...
come on, a mitigating factor. I mean, people were talking about, China, that rape. He said no, Robin. She said no.
It's just... look,
we're all human beings at the end of the day.
But... No, I'm not even saying that he celebrated fine, but don't say you're always going to be a gooner and then do that, fuck off. If he's gone to Juventus or Barcelona, fine. Like what Cesc did, with Cesc it was he really felt that it wasn't... I've always defended Cesc because he went to the club that he grew up at, and Barcelona at the time were the best team in the world, and he stayed for a year longer than he wanted to, and he deserved where we were at that time. He deserved his chance to go to Barcelona, and it's his home club. I've never held that against Cesc. What Van Persie did was completely differently. He showed a complete lack of disrespect to Wenger and the club, the fans, the rest of his teammates. He backed himself into a corner where he had to leave, and he did that on purpose. He made his position untenable. We had to sell him. And he went to the worst club he could have gone to. And as I've said, I don't think back anymore and I never think I want him back. I don't know. I can't get my head around me ever wanting to see him in an Arsenal shirt again.
I think Arsenal fans still do have feelings for him.
No, I think
whether they're negative feelings, but there's still, if you didn't care, you'd be apathetic. But the fact that it's this bullshit rumor, if you want, has come up, and the kind of reaction it's got tells me that a lot of Gooners, there's still feelings there.
I think it's kind of like
there's some Gooners that came on Twitter and said, "Have you seen who he favoured and have you seen what? Well, why are you following him if you hate him so
I think it's kind of like
there's so much feeling.
It's a jilted lover, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a jilted lover thing.
But can you really say, try and picture this in mind as clearly as possible. You're in the ground and you're cheering on Van Persie in an Arsenal shirt. Can you really say that you would love him in that shirt and you would be 100% behind him? I think you'd always look at him as the guy that did a Judas and then somehow came back again. I just can't see, you're not going to sell a lot of shirts, are you? If he comes back again, it's not going to be, all is forgiven. Fuck that. No way. And, let's be sensible about it as well. You'd love his goals, but at the same time, the reality is that we're winning games 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, and we're getting the 3 points. And if he came back, we might win them 3-0 or 4-0, and so we wouldn't be so jealous of all City's goals. But ultimately, you only get 3 points for the win, so he may not make
it behind us as well.
Exactly, the 15 points behind us.
I don't want to. Yeah.
But he hasn't played all the season. He's like you say, he's kind of been cropped again. And he's not.
That's what we probably would buy him back, and he'd be.
He missed the whole season.
Crucial. I just think, he's not the only top class striker we can get. No. There are plenty of other options in the summer. Yeah, we should have got one by now, but we haven't. But
I think this summer we definitely will go out and get some. Hopefully before the World Cup, because once the World Cup comes around, someone has a good tournament.
We need to do what we did with Podolski, which was rapidly transfer up.
Yeah, announce it before the end of the season.
Yeah,
I would get more satisfaction out of watching Man United fail to finish in the top 4 than I would out of Van Persie coming back to us.
There you go. Okay.
I'd rather he stayed there and failed to teach him a fucking lesson than have him back and benefit from his goals.
And the chances are he probably will.
Yeah.
Like you said, it does sound like somebody. I was asking somebody else today, and they said was it you actually instead of saying that it sounds like an Alan Davis. It's Alan Davis that was saying that he had this sketch or whatever about Van Persie travelling back down the motorway.
Yeah, he's always joking about him, driving down the motorway crying, back to
Sorry,
London. Yeah. Just sitting outside the training ground, watching everyone go in and hiding. Yeah.
What I'd compare it to is like if you break up with your girlfriend and you miss her. You don't miss her, but you miss her amazing body, for example. With Van Persie, we miss his goals. We don't miss him. He's an arsehole. And if you go on to get a new girlfriend who's just as attractive, and perhaps maybe in this case, we can go and get another striker who gives us those goals, suddenly you forget about him. It's only because we've been lacking that star striker.
Exactly.
That we really miss him, and I just think there's so many other options, and it's never going to happen anyway, so I don't know why we've spoken about it for this long.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So talking about that, just moving on to the league table. After 24 games, Sky Sports put out this stat earlier. After 24 games so far, we've got 55 points, and we're first. Last season, we had at the same point after 24 games, we had 38 points and we're sixth. In the 2003-4 season, the Invincible season, we had 58 points and were first. Can we go on and do it? Callum.
Or can we go invincible? No. We've already lost. No. Look, I've said all along that we can win it. I think it's got to the point now where we have to rely on City to slip up because they're just, it's £1 billion worth of talent that, you know, we've got, our net spend of the last however many years since City, I think since City were taken over is really small. It's like 40, you know, it might even only be like 11 million, I think. And City's is 700 million. You know, they're favourites, as they should be with the money they've spent. Our job simply is just to try and keep winning matches, and if they slip up, and I think they might at some point, they'll have a few games where perhaps they don't keep, you know, blowing teams aside like they are at the moment, then we have to be there to pounce. And, you know, we're just beating teams with this kind of rugged, you know, persistence. You know, we're just breaking them down, getting the goals right, onto the next one. Then the next run of games is huge. Obviously, you know, if we can go to Anfield and get a point or something, and then beat United at our place, that would do huge things for our confidence. But I don't know. It's really hard to call. I think we've got a chance, but I still think we're lacking a little bit to beat City through our. You know, we kind of need them to drop some points and slip up for us to get in there. But you know, I think we'll be in it till the end. You know, I don't think we're going to fall away the way some people think. I think we'll be in with a shot right up until April, May time. But if I really had to bet on it, I would probably say that we won't win it, but we've definitely got a good shot.
Okay. Inch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a 3-horse race, and all 3 teams will drop points. So it just comes down to who drops the least. And, you know, as Callum says, you know, City are absolutely smashing teams out of the park, but they will have a game at some point where, you know, the opposition's goal leads a charmed life, and the goalkeeper plays out of his skin, and they just cannot possibly score, you know, and there'll be some sort of 0-0 against Stoke or God knows who. So, you know, they're not invincible. But they are on cracking form, and they had terrible away form at the beginning of the season. So if they regain that terrible away form, then you never know what might happen. But we're at the moment, you know, we've been top of the league for the longest, so we've got as much chance as anybody else, irrespective of what they spent on their squads. You know, but as with any season, you need luck to win the league, and at the moment we're a bit unlucky because we've got so many injuries. But where we've been lucky is that we've got key players back at the right time, and Oxlade-Chamberlain proved that today. He's come back and scored 2 goals straight away when we got loads of players injured. If we keep getting that kind of luck, then we can win it. But we need Ramsey to come back, you know, and Jack to come back, and it would have been great if Theo comes back, but it probably won't now. So, yeah, we can do it, but we need a bit of luck, and we need the other 2 teams to drop points. I think what would be good for us is if Chelsea actually win tomorrow night, because Chelsea look more like the team that are going to drop points. So if they beat City, they'll take 3 points off of them, and then they'll you know, cock it up by going to lose against Southampton or somebody. So then both teams will have dropped points, you know, over the next few weeks, and that will give us a breathing space if we keep on winning.
I think I'd rather than both drop points. I think a draw.
A draw is great as well. I certainly wouldn't turn that down.
I don't see Chelsea as a team that are just going to fall away, unfortunately. I think they're going to be right up there.
But City are on the better form, though.
No, you're right. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. But I think it'd be good. It's better rather than gain 3 points on one and not the other. But then wouldn't be as good as gaining 2 points on both. But I'd rather a Chelsea win than a City win. But also worth, you talk about luck. We could do with City not getting another, you know, favourable decisions every bloody week, it feels like at the moment.
Yeah, you know? that is a good point. I mean, it's not like they need any more help, do they?
No, exactly. Like you spent, you know, hundreds of millions of pounds on players. And if that isn't enough, here's numerous dodgy decisions against, you know, going your way. It's pretty infuriating, to be honest. But you know, what can you do?
All right, so on a day where Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain won us the points with 2 lovely goals, you know, on the back of Kim Kallström's mysterious injury, we're going to love you and leave you. So at this point, I will say good night from Callum.
Yeah, good night.
And a good night from Mr. Inch Practice Jasper. How are you doing, sir? Oh, sorry, should I say? How are you doing? It's just not all over again.
I'm getting a very weird feeling of deja vu here.
I ain't seen you for so long. I haven't heard your voice for such a long time, that's why. So it's a good night from you, Jasper.
Yeah, good night.
All right, and that's a good night for me. See you all again next time.